Introducing LT Defense Tactical Gear, your ultimate solution for top-notch protection and performance in the field. Our armor bundles provide unmatched safety and comfort, while our Introducing LT Defense Tactical Gear, your ultimate solution for top-notch protection and performance in the field. Our armor bundles provide unmatched safety and comfort, while our battle belts and holsters ensure quick and easy access to your gear. Stay prepared for any situation with our high-quality medical supplies, designed to keep you ready for action at all times. Looking to enhance your skills? Our firearms training programs will take your proficiency to the next level. Trust LT Defense for all your tactical gear needs and gear up for success on the battlefield.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Think of all that time. Every wait in the winter. All those hours no one else. Think of all that time. Think of every sacrifice in the summer. Every wait in the mornings on the levee. Late nights in the film room. Bus rides to playoff games. Every bump in the road. Every moment of ecstasy. Every moment of doubt. Years wondering. Is it all worth it? It's all led to this. Man, I got this. It's a 60-minute drive for a 60-minute game. After all the miles we've traveled, we're almost there. After all the hours we've worked, one more can make us legends. After all that time, this is our time.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Good knowing exactly where to go with the football.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome into Inside the Hoosier Mind, brought to you in part by Military Broadcast Radio, helping give veterans a voice, helping teach them how to podcast, and most importantly, letting veterans' voices be heard. We are back with the shy kid, Mike Hughes, to talk some sports. We're going to have a little bit of NBA talk because I'm going to be honest, I know a super tiny bit about the NBA, but Mike is luckily my guy for that. If you're watching on StreamYard, he's got the Bulls and the 6 championships that MJ23 won with Chicago back in the 90s.
I saw none of them.
I say I was technically around for half of those, the second half, not the first half. But But we're going to talk about some of the NBA coaching fires because for whatever reason, even though you win a championship with your team and you have consistent playoff success, you're getting fired. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about some of the NFL news as well with Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson both being quarterbacks for the New York Football Giants. And then we'll probably end the show talking about our favorite quarterback diva because he's a diva and he just wants to drag this out for as long as possible with a franchise that historically has had a lot of success, but for whatever reason just decides that they want to flirt with disaster. Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Mike, buddy, appreciate you being on, good sir. We haven't done a show together in a hot minute.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, though, let's dive into the first topic with the NBA and the coaches getting fired and whatnot. I think this is your boy, if I remember right, James Patrick. You guys didn't call Malone being fired, LOL. I'm be honest again. That's part of what brought this up is because the man just won a championship with the Nuggets back in 2023. So Adam Schefter tweeted this a little earlier. He put, with Michael Malone being fired from Denver, 4 of the last 6 NBA coaches to win the finals are no longer with the team they helped win a championship. And that's Nick Nurse, got fired by the Raptors. They won in 2019. Frank Vogel with the Lakers, and they won in 2020. Mike Budenholzer with the Bucks in 2021. Funny, all 3 of them fired after winning championships for 3 years. And then obviously Michael Malone with the Denver Nuggets in 2023. So Mike, buddy, like I said, you're the NBA guy. You follow the NBA a lot more than I do. Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm used to more of kind of the college, and it happens a little bit with college football.
Yeah.
It happens a little bit with the NFL. Obviously, we've seen it with Doug Peterson. He got fired just shortly after winning Philly their first ever Super Bowl. You thought he'd be there forever after that. But apparently this is a common thing in the NBA. I mean, the Grizzlies fired their coach. Obviously, the Grizzlies haven't won a title, but the Grizzlies had consistent playoff success, and as far as making it to the playoff, and same with all these other teams. You know, Frank Vogel had LeBron James. Now, Nick Nurse, I could kind of see. You had Kawhi Leonard. You kind of went all in on that one, and then afterwards, the Raptors have kind of been a disaster for the most part. You know, Vogel had, LeBron and Anthony Davis. They had the bubble. They had the time off, so they kind of went on that little magical run.
Even the Bucks. The Bucks were what? They fired Griffin. Was it Griffin they fired? And they were like over 500, and they brought in they made a switch, and then they immediately just started losing games, and it was like, okay, this day I don't think anybody really understands why that happened.
I don't either. And you still have a super great young athlete in, Giannis Antetokounmpo there, the Greek freak who dropped like 70 points in the last 2 games that he's played in. And now you have Malone, who gets fired after leading the Nuggets to, a championship, finally bringing the first title to Denver. As far as I know, Denver is still in the contention for the West as far as the playoffs and whatnot go. It's not like they're sitting on the outside looking in. So, Mike, what is it with the NBA? You gotta win like 3 titles, and even then, maybe you win 1 title, you're safe for like another year.
Today was a weird one because immediately I'm like, oh, what a horrible GM to fire Mike Malone. Mike Malone, and I told you, like, it had to have been as a joke, like something Diddy related. You know what I mean? Like something horrible that's gonna get this man canceled. Something happened in this locker room or off the court. That is a reason he was removed. Because no way a GM in their right mind would do this. And then the GM was fired immediately after. So I was like, okay, we're cleaning house. You know what I mean? Whereas Taylor Jenkins, shout out Jeezy, shout out Randy doing his thing in the M right now. But that was more of a Ja Morant issue where it was just like, hey, we're just going to make a head coaching change, whatever. Ja wants, I don't know what Ja wants anymore. But, whatever. But, I think for me, the NBA is just an interesting place, and Randy kind of set that tone in our group chat that we had the other day, where it's kind of like, man, the stars command a lot of money, and they command a lot of that's coming into these stadiums, and at the end of the day, people are going to come to see Nikola Jokic. People are going to come to see LeBron and Luka and whoever. They're not coming for Jenkins or Malone or Doc Rivers or Billy Donovan. As much as I would love the Bulls to fire Billy Donovan, they just don't fire him. That's the one where it doesn't matter if Michael Jordan himself says fire him. The Bulls won't do it. You know, the Bulls are probably, if I had to make a comparison to some NFL talk for anybody listening, the Bulls front office is the most Dallas Cowboys front office I've ever seen, where it's just like, no, we're going to hire our friends and we're going to make sure that we ruin their reputation to a crisp before we eventually let them go. We're not going to fire them. It's going to be a mutual parting. It's like,
and they live in the 90s because that's when all the success was had, even though the 90s was 35 years ago.
You know, and I'm a diehard Bulls fan, but it's really the most relatable thing. I understand you now. I get it. But no, right? The Malone thing was crazy, and I do have a little thing because I know we will get flagged if we pull up video, but I thought it was interesting here.
And the guys that
this is from Mike Malone like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, before he got fired. He's kind of talking about everybody in the locker room, and I thought I would play it. I just think it's really interesting.
Yeah. Each guy's got to look themselves in the mirror and start coming to each respective game with the proper mindset and have some pride. I didn't think we played with any pride tonight.
They took that.
I don't really care. It's not my job to evaluate how they take things. My job is to be honest, and sometimes brutally honest. And tonight, it was a brutally honest message. And the guys that are full of shit won't hear it. You know, they'll say coach is tripping. And the guys that maybe do really care will, because they're not going to go back and watch their minutes, because nobody watches their minutes. Nobody watches film. So we'll have to show them the film. And I said, if somebody disagrees with me, please speak up. And nobody said a word. So again, I'm not really concerned with how they took that message. My thing is being honest with how we just played.
And so I'm listening to that now. Kind of didn't think whatever. Like Mike's one of them ones. You know what I mean? He's no bullshit. So when he said that weeks ago, I was like, that's good. He's trying to pump up the guys before this playoff push, because right now, if you check it out, standing in the Western Conference, seed 3 through 8 are all like 2-3 games apart of each other. So these next 4 games in the regular season, the final 4 games are going to be super critical. You could see the Denver Nuggets go from 3 to, or I think they're at 4 right now. You can see them go from 4 all the way to 7 or 8. Like it's definitely possible. So for me, I just think it's interesting because it makes you wonder who exactly we're talking about. You know what I mean? Because if we're talking about, and I love Jumpman for life. You know, Aaron Gordon is a dunk. Well, never won a dunk contest, but to me, in my heart, is a dunk champion and one of my favorite players from my childhood. But if you're talking about Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr., that's one thing. If you're talking about Jokic, that's a problem. You know, because see, now look, if Jokic says to the general manager, I want Mike fired, and the GM says no, okay, fine. Jokic went to the owner and said, I want Mike and the GM fired. Like, you know, and not to say that happened, but it makes you wonder, like, in the Ja Morant case with Taylor Jenkins, that was exactly the case. Ja Morant was upset about, you know, him not getting the ball as much and him not being a part of the offense. Okay, boom, now Taylor's gone. Who pissed off Jokic? That's the question. And when you hear, I know you kind of made a face, so I kind of want to throw it back to you. When you hear that no one's watching film, and we're you know, we got Russell Westbrook, Nikola Jokic, you got some veterans in this locker room. What kind of message does that send to you that not only is that happening, but Mike had to vocally express that to the media? That's usually stuff you keep in house. You know, the Johnny Manziel stuff that me and you joked about all summer long didn't come out until years later. You know, it was alluded, but no one knew.
Yeah, it was never confirmed. To me, that it says a couple things. It says a couple things about maybe the type of players that we have now. And one of the things that I was going to mention along with that, and I don't know if you had heard these rumors, but I know I had, there's rumors that one of the top wide receiver prospects coming out of college out of Arizona, I'm going to probably butcher his first name, so I'm going to really apologize. It's like Terratota or Terrora McMillan out of Arizona. He even said, he's like, I don't watch film. I don't want to watch film. I don't like to watch film. And it's like, but there's still probably going to be teams that take that chance because, okay, well, he's a dynamic player. He played really well when he was in college. He's done really well so far. We're going to take the chance on him because if we can make it work, you know, we're going to get an absolute steal. For the NBA side, what does that say about your players? Because don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that superstars don't have power. I mean, heck, as a huge LeBron critic, even for somebody who doesn't watch the NBA quite a bit, I criticize LeBron to no end. That's something that LeBron does. But I have to give LeBron credit where it's due. The man played his absolute butt off every single time, and he studied. Now, I don't know if he's watching film or not, but he's studying and he's trying to figure out, okay, what can I do to improve myself? What can I do to set myself and the team up as a whole in the position to get that way? What's really interesting, at least about the Denver situation, and Randy kind of alluded to it in our chat as well, Jokic has publicly said, I really don't care. Like, I didn't want to go, like, he didn't want to go to the, parade that Denver had for him as far as winning thing. He's like, I just want to go back home. I want to play at the farm. I want to play in the horse poop. I don't want to do this crap. like Jokic just doesn't care.
Not mad at that either.
So, like, if Jokic did it, is it just because of, like you said, Mike Malone is a no BS kind of guy? Is he just look, I'm trying to come in and coach you, which realistically, we've kind of seen it. A lot of these old school coaches of, look, I'm here to teach you. I'm here to get you prepared for what you need to do as far as being able to be successful and whatnot. And I kind of wonder if Jokic is like, look, I don't care. I don't want to deal with that. I just want to ball. I want to make money. And then after we're done, I want to go. I don't want to keep doing this.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many other NBA stars are like that, because I think with other NBA stars, a lot of it is primarily the money. I think they'd enjoy playing, but the money is about 90% of why they do it. Because look at Ja, you got the max contract. All these guys get massive major contracts, and after that, it's like, meh. If we win a ring, cool. If not, it's like the drive isn't there as much as it used to be.
Sure.
But it does make me wonder, since we're starting to see it a little bit in the NFL, and that's kind of been a theory and a potential worry ever since 2004 with Eli and Phillip Rivers, when Eli's like, I'm not playing for the Chargers. I'm just not going to play. Like, these guys dictating where they want to go and what they want to do. Like you said, as far as a lot of the veterans, how many of them are potentially coming to some of these guys, or even some of the young kids, like, look, I get it. Watching film isn't exactly the most fun thing. And maybe you don't necessarily have to watch film. I don't know of anything that absolutely is a definitive, like, oh yeah, you watch film, you're going to get 1,000% better. Heck, there are probably dudes who live in the film room and they suck when it comes to being out on the field or on the court. That just is what it is.
I always go back to, like, not to cut you off, but I always go back to like the Luke Kuechly's, where it's just like, he knows exactly what the fuck is happening right now. Pardon my language, but like that, Luke, Tom, Aaron, like, those are guys, even though we're about to have a whole segment about Aaron Rodgers and why the last 93 days of him being a free agent going on 94 is still a thing, because it's mind-boggling. But one thing about Aaron, man, he knows how to dot it up, and not only does he know that, he knows exactly who's across from him, and he knows where he's supposed to be and where you're going to be, or where you could be. If you don't go this way, you might go that way, whatever. Shit, might know the audible, who knows? But I it really is at that point for a lot of these guys, and even LeBron, if you like, his IQ is just so different. And really the only team that really is at a point to where it's like, we don't care what the star thinks, was the Dallas Mavericks. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of that came into not wanting to pay $300 million and wanting to move out to Vegas or whatever the situation is over there, whatever. But yeah, it's definitely interesting what happened with Mike Malone. I would go, though. I do kind of want to, like, maybe we'll clip this later. We'll see what happens. I would bet my bottom dollar that Mike Malone and Taylor Jenkins do a flip this offseason. I would say Mike Malone fits amazingly in the Memphis culture with this young Grizzlies team. You got a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr. and John Morant, Desmond Bane, and Zach Edey as well, who I was completely wrong about going into this season. And then obviously Taylor Jenkins, who has done a lot with a little, never really had a true big man for the most part in the John Morant era. Now you have Nikola Jokic. I love it. I think those two could definitely make a flip. You could definitely see Jenkins over there in Denver, and then Malone maybe over there, White Iverson doing his thing over there in Memphis.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's possible. I don't think that's completely out of the realm. That it kind of would be cool to see a little bit of the flip, but
you saw the chain too. I sent you, right? Mike Malone. I sent it in the group chat. Mike Malone repping that big ass chain.
Oh yeah,
he fits. He fit. Josh got all that shit too.
He did. We will take one quick break, and when we come back, we will discuss a little bit of NFL. We'll talk the Giants, we'll talk Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson, and can the Giants even compete in an NFC East that at least at the moment is top heavy with Philly and Washington when we come back.
Tune in to Clado's Cacophony of Sound every Saturday night from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern on Military Broadcast Radio at mbradio.us or on Twitch at DJ_Clado. MBR, giving veterans a voice.
All right, we are back to Inside the Hoosier Mind, brought to you in part by Military Broadcast Radio, helping give veterans a voice, helping teach veterans how to podcast, and most importantly, letting veterans' voices be heard. I'm back here with Mike Hughes, the Shy Kid, to discuss a little bit of NFL free agency. The Giants seem to think they have potentially found their quarterback. There's been a lot of rumblings as far as what they're going to do for the draft. There's reports. Are they going to try to go after Shedeur? Are they going to get Travis Hunter? I saw a lot of reports the last couple of days. They're meeting with Abdul Carter, the edge rusher out of Penn State. That's supposed to be one of the top draft picks in the draft. So we don't know what in the world New York is going to do, because they could honestly go either way. There's a Giants fan I follow by the name of Doug Rush, who's really good. He writes a lot of really good articles for the Giants and whatnot. He brought up kind of an interesting point. If they get Abdul Carter, they kind of have a really good problem. Because you have, if I remember correctly, they still have Dexter Lawrence. You have Kayvon Thibodeau. You'll have Abdul Carter. You have a ton of pass rushers. Oh, and Brian Burns. You have a ton of pass rushers, all on the front end of that Giants defensive line.
Nasty.
Getting them all out on the field at the same time, and can they all be productive while you're doing that, is another thing. However, that doesn't mean anything if your offense is stagnant and doesn't do anything, which is really what has been the problem for the Giants for years. They paid a defense in 2016. Defensively, they've kind of been pretty consistent as far as retooling, getting that defense and whatnot, still consistent. But offensively, the Giants have been really bad for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since really that last Super Bowl win, ever since then, they have not been fantastic. I think 2016 was like the one off year. It's like, okay, Giants offense is pretty decent.
Then they went to Miami and it was like,
Yeah, the Miami curse boast trip with Odell Beckham Jr. and whatnot.
all those Timberland boots I saw on that boat. Not one shirt. It was crazy.
All the that's always like baffled me, man. Like I don't know. For me, whenever I go out somewhere and it's hot, I don't want to wear boots.
Yeah,
wear tennis shoes, wear sandals. We'll go
even like Jordans. I'm not wearing Jordans.
Right.
I'll rock Jordans if we're going out, like
right.
going to a game or something cool. But like if we're going on a boat, I've never been on a yacht.
Right.
I can't talk, but I probably would just bring my flippy flops. I ain't gonna lie.
Right. Like don't get me wrong. Like you said, if we're going out, yeah, we'll throw on the good shoes, throw on the boots, throw on whatever. Yeah. If I'm going on the beach, nah, because that sand gets everywhere, then they get dirty, then they get I ain't doing that. But nonetheless, though, the Giants decided they're going to go with Russell Wilson. They were in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes, apparently, but they decided not to follow through with that. They decided to sign with Russ, but they also signed Jameis Winston. And fun fact, I don't know if you've seen this, Mike, but I've seen it for the last couple of weeks. If either one of those gentlemen decide to start, this will be the first time in the Giants franchise history in over 100 years that they will have an African-American quarterback starting for them ever week one of the season.
I was about to say, because Tyrod Taylor started for them, didn't he?
He did. That was in the middle of the season, though.
Yeah.
He didn't start week one.
That's actually super interesting to me.
Right. But nonetheless, though, so they're doing that. We still don't know what they're going to do as far as the rest of the draft and how they're going to retool and whatnot. But they have Malik Neighbors. They have a solid wide receiver. Offensive line is still being worked on. It's gotten better over the last couple of years. I know you're a big fan of their running back. I'm not as big of a fan personally. But do you think they could even keep up with Philly, who, albeit Philly has lost a lot of pieces either due to retirement or free agency? But Philly is still a very loaded roster, just coming off the Super Bowl and whatnot. And you still have Washington, who made a magical run and brought a lot of those pieces back, and they got Debo. in free agency, and they've made a lot of big trades. They got Laramie Tunzel on the offensive side of the ball, so their offensive line is going to be better for Jaden Daniels. Can the Giants even compete? Because right now, looking at it, they're still probably competing for like third or fourth place, depending on what Dallas does or doesn't do, saying that you can pick however order you want to pick them. Philly and Washington are 1 and 2. New York's still probably sitting there at either 3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, the word competing is kind of a stretch. I think a lot of people think you need a franchise quarterback on a rookie deal to be able to really take over a division. You know, we're looking at the Jaden Daniels, the Jalen Hurts. You know, they've had a lot of success. Even, you know, looking the NFC North with our boys over there, like Caleb Williams is really turning heads. But to kind of keep in that conversation to why I think it's important here, I think you could still have success with Russ or Jameis Winston at that moment. Tommy DeVito, how you there? But what a room, by the way. What a quarterback room. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even know how to process that. But
Tommy Cutlets.
Tommy Cutlets. You got Russ, unlimited, and then Jameis Winston. I could do a million
Eating dubs.
Yeah, I could do
W's.
a million different quotes by Jameis Winston. But you know, I think. You look at a guy like Jared Goff, who came into this situation in Detroit, and even Sam Darnold in Minnesota, you know, kind of did change things. Okay, maybe we can get something out of a veteran quarterback. Maybe he's going to be a journeyman the rest of his career, but let's soak up the last ounce of talent that he has left in that jockstrap. Pause. You know, but I think for me, it's hard. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they still don't compete. And I would still say Brian Daboll keeps his job at the end of the season because I think they'll make waves and I think they'll do enough. You know what I mean? They'll show that they're competitive, but you have to hit with that number 3 overall pick. If I'm them, not to change the conversation, but if the idea is Jameis Winston is number 2 and then Russell is going to be number 1, if that's the conversation, I'm not going to be like the Bears with Justin Fields, have him be QB3 with Andy Dalton and Nick Foles in front of him. Like, we're not drafting a quarterback then. That's what it is. So if I were them, I would trade down. And just like you kind of mentioned, I love Tracy. Had him in fantasy. That's my guy. Don't know how good he would actually be if he didn't get the amount of touches he got. That's the one thing I will say. You know, if he's not getting 20, 30 touches, what's he going to be? But I would say they trade down and get Tyler Warren. What I've seen out of Tyler Warren from Penn State, 6'6", you can put him in the slot, you can put him at receiver, you can put him at tight end, you can have him block. This sounds super corny. Tyler Warren is a football player, period. Like, you know, there's guys who play positions, there's athletes who play the game of football. Tyler Warren is a football player. And if he could fall to the Chicago Bears at number 10, I would lose my mind. I would absolutely take him over any offensive lineman, over any defensive lineman, Ashton Genty, whoever it is. I would take Tyler Warren. I'm not fucking around. I believe in Tyler Warren. But if I were the Giants, I think they should also believe in Tyler Warren. I mean, the last time they had a legitimate tight end was Darren Waller, and that lasted about 2-3 weeks. And then, you know, he ended up having to retire and everything he was going through. So if you bring in Malik Neighbors, Tracy, Russ, Tyler Warren, beefed up the offensive line a little bit, and the defense that you already said was pretty solid, I think you got something there. You know what I mean? Because now you have a wide receiver 2 in Tyler Warren, who's also your tight end. You could do so much there. We saw how a guy like Dawson Knox had a lot of success with Josh Allen and Brian Daboll. That's 10 times more with a guy like Tyler Warren. And not to change the conversation again, sorry, but like I think
you're good, buddy.
That's the only way I see them competing is a Brock Bowers caliber season, even though Brock didn't score a lot of touchdowns. And I believe Tyler only had 8 touchdowns in 16 games last year. Look at those eyes. Gorgeous. Bless you. God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
Man saw the Lord and just started getting blessed. It was crazy.
Couldn't help it. Yeah.
Couldn't help it. But yeah, no, I definitely think it has to be a home run draft pick. You know what I mean? And it has to be an immediate move. Travis Hunter is there.
It's like, because they're sitting at 3. So you basically got the pick of the litter as far as what you want.
You can go crazy. You know what I mean? But I would trade down. If you're not going quarterback in this draft class, I would trade down because me and you have talked about it. I think there are going to be a lot of position skill players still available later in this draft. I think a lot of guys, it's a pretty basic draft. I won't lie. A lot of guys are going to go quarterback early. there's always going to be that random Michael Penix move. But I'm the Giants suck. Sorry, Doug. I love Doug. And by the way, really quickly, bro, did you I know we're on a time crunch, but I never knew who Doug was for real until we stopped working together at ASAP. And then one day he popped up on my Twitter, and I'm like, Doug is famous. And we used to be in all these meetings with Doug. It made me I was like, what the fuck? Pardon me. Shout out Doug Rush. Show Doug some love, because I'm like, who is this guy?
No, I don't disagree with that any of what you said. There is one thing I might offer as an alternative, though, because I have a little tiny bit of bias for. If you don't go for Tyler Warren, there is another fantastic tight end that is available in this draft, who actually ran one of the best 4.4s for a tight end, and has some of the best hands in the combine as well as in the game of college football. A little bit underrated. A lot of people may not know him if they don't watch this particular brand of football. There's a gentleman who's the son of Miami Dolphins legend Jordan Taylor by the name of Mason Taylor, tight end out of LSU. Go Tigers. Fantastic hands, great pass catcher, great blocking, all that. Very well-rounded tight end. Also possible. Awesome. Don't know if people would spend the 3rd round pick on him, but just saying, opportunity for a great tight end is there. But like you said,
is that an immediate move? Because you're a Tigers fan, so you watch them all the time. Sorry, you're a Tigers fan. But do you think that's not to say Brock Bauer level rookie year, but do you think that's a move where most tight ends take a couple years to start figuring it out? Do you think he'd be pretty quick to settle in?
I would give that, if they were to draft him, I would say even as high as the 2nd round, I would say he's at minimum a B+ to B player. I think he comes in and makes an immediate impact. Like you said, I don't know if he may have the Brock Bowers type of impact, but I do think he legitimately gives you a big body, a legitimate red zone threat, which is his specialty in college. He can work down the field and stretch the field. I think it would potentially be a good thing. Okay. But much to your point, though, here's my other question is, there's good and bad about whenever you decide to trade down, because you're trying to think even farther ahead of the future of what can we do to succeed. The other question is, are you going to be able to keep the guys there bought into that of, hey, we got to have one more really rough season for some of you guys that your timeline playing in the NFL may not be that long. So just bear with some suck a little bit longer. And then we're going to take a real big shot on whether or not this does or doesn't happen on a new quarterback.
No, that's literally the case of the 2025 Chicago Bears. If they do not make the playoffs this season, guys like Tremaine Edmonds, guys he's probably gone anyways, guys like Keenan Allen, Kevin Byard, they're gonna be like, dude, I can't do another. You fixed every problem for the 3rd year in a row. I can't keep doing this. So I definitely get it. It would be tough. But who's really that old on the New York Giants right now? Other than Russ.
Other than Russ, there's really not a whole lot of old guys. But I'm also thinking
get bought into that then.
But I'm also thinking too, not only do you have age, you got guys that are going to be starting to want to get paid. Like Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be coming up to that point. Your offensive line is going to be coming up to that point. I think Sexy Dexy already got paid.
Tommy Cutlets wants to get paid.
Exactly. Tommy DeVito. You can't cut the New Jersey boy. You can't do it. But nonetheless, that's the other thing that you got to worry about with when you decide, okay, we're gonna wait and find somebody else. Here's the other thing that I would say too is looking at just kind of ahead at some of the guys that may or may not even be available next year in the draft. Do you feel any of them are going to potentially be that guy to make the start? Obviously the crowning jewel that everybody expects to be available, either next year, more than likely the year after next, is Arch Manning out of Texas. Barring anything barring anything bad happening and Texas just going down the pooper real quick.
Yeah.
Arch is potentially the crown jewel, but can you wait potentially 2 more seasons for that, pay all these guys, and then expect him to be able to walk into a situation like Tom did with Tampa of, We got everything here.
Yeah.
We are just one quarterback away from being a contender once again.
And I think the players could definitely wait on that, but Brian Dable doesn't have that time because what is it? His third, he was brought in the same year as Matt Eberflus was for Chicago. Cause I remember I wanted Dable more than him.
Yeah.
So it's what, his fourth year as the Giants head coach now going into?
Yeah, I think going into 4. Yeah.
So you're talking about going into year 6 without a playoff appearance. It's not looking great. It's not looking great whatsoever.
Okay. Well, he has one.
He has one. Oh, I forgot
bounced.
about.
Yeah, they got bounced in the first round. Or no, they beat Minnesota and then they got.
They
bounced.
did. Yeah,
but
I forgot about Danny Dimes being an elite quarterback for 2 weeks in December, which was great.
Yeah. But nonetheless, we will take one more quick break again. When we come back, we will talk a little bit. We'll end the show, of course, with our favorite guy to talk about. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers and whatnot and why the Steelers are even wasting their time. But when we come back.
Department of Veterans Affairs. For PSAs on the best services available to veterans, go to VA's new radio outreach page, news.va.gov/outreach/radio.
All right, welcome back into Inside the Hoosier Mind, brought to you in part by Military Broadcast Radio, helping give veterans a voice. Back with the Shy Kid to finish off with our last topic of the night, talking about some NFL and the Pittsburgh Steelers, who on paper, Pittsburgh has a interesting defense. They have 2, at minimum, top 15 wide receivers in the league right now as it stands on paper. They lost what I would probably call about a top 15. You could maybe even argue like top 12 running back in Najee Harris to the Chargers. So the running back situation there in Pittsburgh is interesting.
The way I thought you were going to say Justin Fields, I was going to get so upset. When I heard top 15 running back, I was like, ooh, Justin? I was like, oh, Najee. Yeah, I forgot about Najee.
No, I'm not putting Justin on kick returns like Madden had him, buddy. I promise. But they still have George Pickens. They get DK Metcalf. Again, defensively, they're still pretty solid, but they don't have a quarterback. Their starting quarterback, as far as I know right now, and if anything changes, is Mason Rudolph. And obviously, don't let him face Myles Garrett in Cleveland because that's not going to end well. Yeah. But the rumor is that apparently both sides of Rodgers and the Steelers camps and whatnot have basically all but come to an agreement. It's just the true formality of signing a contract and coming to an agreement that he's going to do it, of Aaron playing for the Steelers this coming season. There's also talks he might take a year off. And honestly, at that point, you're going to be 42, buddy. I don't think you're coming back if you take a year off. If you take a year off, you're done. Just my personal opinion. But all honesty, Mike, looking at the Steelers historically for who they are, 6 Super Bowls. They have not been to a Super Bowl since 2011, where ironically enough, they lost to Aaron Rodgers in his only Super Bowl win. Should the Steelers even waste their time, or do you think the Steelers should be the guys coming in there? Mike should say, look, I'm going to have my first ever losing season. I get at least one pass because I've never had it as a head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We need a quarterback of the future. We may or may not be able to get that guy. Or do you think Aaron can come in there and at least get him over the playoff hump? Because they've been able to make the playoffs, but they have been consistently bounced out of the first round for years now, even with and post Ben Roethlisberger, if they make it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be really interesting to kind of see what happens with this entire situation and kind of how it all unfolds. But for me, from an Aaron Rodgers perspective, I think it's a lot more than just, being on a beach with your blanket, toes in the sand, and having your, and by the way, wired headphones on. Like, Aaron, you've made over $100 million. You can get some Beats or you can get some AirPods. Like, I don't know why he still has wires. Whatever, not the point. But I think for me, Aaron Rodgers is being pretty strategic right now. That's really how I'm looking at it. I'm a diehard Bears fan, so I don't like to give him his flowers often. But I think he's waiting to hold out till after the draft. I think he saw what happened with Kirk Cousins last year, signing a $200 million deal. Then here comes Michael Penix in the top 10. And that shocked Kirk Cousins. I think to this day, he's still shocked about it. So for me, I think Aaron wants to go somewhere where he's not going to be a mentor, where he's not going to have to, potentially take the back seat and let this young quarterback take the reins. I think so for me, the the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting at 21, I think that's pretty much why you have that understanding of they're not taking a quarterback, but maybe there is that conversation about them potentially trading up to go get one. You know what I mean? We saw them trade up for DK. We know Tomlin's definitely willing to do it. They have all the assets in the world to be able to take that risk. But how far up would they get in the top 10? You know what I mean? But I think for me because you're not going to go from the number 1 overall pick to pick 21 unless you're getting Myles Garrett, but I think for me, that's really the only thing that makes sense is I think Aaron's just trying to see if Pittsburgh drafts a quarterback or not. Because if they do, I could see him just riding off into the sunset because you saw how he treated Jordan Love. He's getting the Brett Favre effect. He learned from the best. And I think it's definitely interesting. Now, I don't know. I also still think there is a team out there like Minnesota that could definitely change their mind. You know what I mean? I don't know. Because think about it. I think J.J. McCarthy isn't fully healthy or he's not doing well. Come August, September, give Aaron Rodgers a call if he's still a free agent. Maybe you see what happens. You know what I mean? You got a guy like Ryan Tannehill who was waiting all year last year though and never got that call. So I don't know. It's definitely interesting, but at the end of the day, I could give you as many professional answers as possible, but the reality of the situation is he's a crackhead, and I just don't know what his next move is going to be, bro.
Yeah, and I like John. I would laugh if Chicago picks Rodgers up, but it would kill Mike. I don't think Chicago would do that.
It would. I don't know.
I'll say this real quick too, and it's something that I think everyone else that isn't smoking peyote or whatever it is that Aaron Rodgers likes to do in his free time that isn't. What
is it? It sounds like Tabasco. It's something Tabasco, Tabasco, something like I don't know.
Right, tobacco yaki. I don't know something. But to everybody else with a normal mindset, like if I'm Aaron. And I doubt he ever thinks this, or if it is, he's just an idiot, even though he's supposed to be a smart guy. Like, again, you're 41, man. Like, you are not going to be the franchise guy. Like, unless you're going to go to a team that just is absolutely in a dumpster fire situation. Like, let's be 1,000% honest. If I had to rank teams that it was like, okay, where are you going? And they're just like, look, we just kind of exist. We're just here. Like, if we make it, cool. If not, oh, well.
Vegas.
Like, honestly, not even Vegas because Pete Carroll cares. Like, honestly, I'm thinking more of like Cleveland. They're like, look, we already have to pay like a ton of money to Deshaun. He's getting massages every 10 seconds. Like, we can't keep doing this.
He's walking on his hands. Can't fucking walk on either Achilles right now.
Right. Like maybe you could argue Carolina because they're just like, we got Bryce Young. We don't really have another option. Like there is no there's no other place that is going to put up with, he's going to be our franchise guy. Yeah. And we're going to make that work type of thing. So I don't know if that's ever going to be the case. And I think he needs to realize that, like, look, I'm not saying you have to be the mentor and you have to teach the dude, but you do got to understand you're 41 every single year, no matter who you go to, it's going to be a year by year, case by case basis type of thing. Like you are no longer a long-term option like you were, 4 or 5 years ago, even like your time is limited.
People love LeBron, but it's a 1-2 year deal, brother. I can't.
And I think even he realizes that because he's not making the big moves that he was on the Lakers. He wanted Bronny to come up, and we won't go super over because that's a topic for another day with Bronny.
Tony can go, man. We got a whole nother episode coming about Bronny.
We
an entire off season about just Bronny.
Right. And again, it's nothing against Bronny. It's just the situation that his dad put him in. Right. But even he realized, he's like, look, I got to get him in here now if I want to play with him as a father and son duo, because I ain't going to be around that much longer. Like even LeBron recognizes that, and I don't think Aaron does. But Mike, buddy, I appreciate it. Good, sir. Appreciate you tuning in and hanging out with me and whatnot. Appreciate everybody watching. If you like Mike, everybody like Mike, go check out all his stuff on social media at The Shy Kid. He covers everything women's basketball, especially with the WNBA coming up and whatnot. Our girl Paige Buchers just finally won her natty with UConn. Absolutely destroyed South Carolina. Obviously, he's going to be covering a lot on the Chicago Sky. He's going to be hopefully helping teach me about the Indiana Fever, especially because old Caitlin Clark is here in Indy and whatnot, and his girl Angel Reese. She's also my girl because she's an LSU Tiger and a national champion. Go Tigers. But you can check him out. And if you like anything and everything to do with Military Broadcast Radio, if you want to check out any other veterans that have great shows, they have great life stories, advice, everything like that, please check out Military Broadcast Radio on all the social medias right above me. Most of them are all at mbradio.us. You can check them out. Other than that, we will hopefully see everybody next week. Everybody have a great night, and we will be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to